So here I'm working on a solar ride pinball machine, and I'm going to be modifying it to play for free. I'm going to add a switch down here in the bottom of the machine that you can access from underneath. When you push the button, it'll simulate dropping a quarter in the slot. So here are on the front of the panel here. This is where you drop quarters, and they're routed through these channels here, and the quarters drop down into these coin mechanisms which determine whether it is a real quarter or not. I have the coin mechanism removed on this one because what I want to do is get to the switch. There's a switch right here. You can that when the quarter makes it through the coin mechanism, and the coin mechanism sorts it from whether it is a coin or not, and if it decides it is a quarter and it's valid, it routes it over and it drops it onto this wire here. And you can see when I touch that wire, I'm getting a reading on the my ohm meter. It's going to 0 ohms. So what I did, I already did this. I traced the wiring from the switch back to this connector here, and I'm back probing this connector, and so I found which two terminals I need to splice into to add a switch to it that's normally open, and when I push the button, momentarily closes exactly like this switch does. So I can just reach under the machine and push the button, and it'll be as if I'm dropping a quarter into the machine. So I've got a switch I'm going to be using. It's a momentary push button switch, and it's what they call a Form C. This one's got a common, a normally open, and a normally closed. Let's see if I can show you that. So on the switch, it's labeled C, NO, and NC. Let's see. So it's C, I can see it right now. C is all the way to the left. NO is normally open, that's in the middle. And NC is normally closed, and that's all the way to the right. So this is a dual switch, so it's got two sets of contacts. So I'm going to be I'm going to go ahead and use both of them, just because why not, you know. So I'm going to get out my soldering iron and connect some wires to this, drill a hole in here, and then route the wiring up into here. And then I'm going to pop these pins out of here and use I've got some other molex pins I'm going to replace them with. I've got the exact pins that go in that connector, so I'm going to pull those pins out, clip them off, and reattach these pins to it and plug them back in. And I guess if I didn't have those pins, I would just cut the wire insulation back and solder onto it. And I prefer not to do that because it kind of weakens the wire, and you can actually make the wire break. Probably wouldn't break in this case because it doesn't really move much, but since I have the pins and I have the crimper and all that, I'm just going to go ahead and do it the right way. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to need two conductors. So I'm just going to take this wire here and chuck it up into a drill. I want to twist these wires up just to make it neater. So I've got them chucked up in a drill, and I can just spin the drill and twist the wires up and then take them out. And so I end up with a neat twisted wire here that just keeps the wires more organized. Then I'm going to cut this and attach it to the switch. Okay, so got my soldering iron warmed up here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this loop open here and strip these wires back. And I'm going to twist them. So here's the common, and the middle pins are normally open. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-tin this. Just going to put a little solder on it. And I'm also going to add some solder to the wires here. So I'm going to go ahead and bridge both of these pins with the switch. Okay. And then on the other end, I can go ahead and test it. I can just strip it back here and hook my voltmeter on there and confirm that it is shorting out. So here's my voltmeter. And I'll attach into the wires here. So when I press on the switch, sure enough, it's a closed circuit. So that's exactly what I want. Now I'm going to move this, take the switch out and install it into the pinball machine. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use a drill here. Drill in here about where I want the switch to be. It's very fine plywood. And I'll just let the dust go down out to the outside there. And then I can take the switch, mount it in the hole there. And later I'll go under there and put the nut and do that part later. Next I'm going to, I've got this tool here that removes the pins. I'm going to be extracting the pins of the molex connector here. So these are the two pins I'm using, 1 and 3. So I'll go ahead and this tool here, put it into the front of the pin here and just push. It's spring loaded. And you'll feel it pop, and when it does, the pin is extracted. So now all I need to do is clip this off, and I'm going to route these wires around here too. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the entire length and stick it under there. So there's the crimping tool for the molex pins right here. The first thing I want to do is cut this wire. That's the old pin. And I'm going to strip this orange wire back a little. And I'm going to add my blue wire to it. And I'll just go and twist both of those together. Then I want to crimp the this pin on there. So there's several choices of where how you want to do it here. Different sizes depending on what kind of wire you've got. I just pick the one that looks the most correct. So there's two crimps. One is for the connector, the wire, and the other one is for the the insulator. I'm going to do the wire one first. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here to the side, and this will grab the insulation. All right, that looks good. Now I can just plug that back in. It's got little wings that are tabs that grip into the connector body. When you push it in, it will click. You can feel it click. Okay, now all I have to do is same thing on this number 1. Pull it out. I'll cut off the old pin. Strip it back a little bit. Twist this other wire to it. This is the other side of the switch. Then I'll position the connector and make a crimp. That did the wire part. Then I'm going to come over here, do the insulation. It just kind of folds it back into itself. Okay, those 2 wires are now in the connector. Now I'm going to plug that back into the number 1 and click it in. Then I just plug that into here. And I'm going to route this blue wire out of the way of the tilt sensor here, because I don't want it to interfere with that. But there you go. That's all I have to do is go underneath the machine and put that nut on and washer on there, and I'll have a way to reach under the machine and add credits, add quarters whenever we want to play. But I still want to retain, the use of these coin mechanisms, because you never know. I may want to require people to use quarters. So the quarters get dropped into here, and there's these series of weights, and there's a magnet in there, right in here that, and there's a weight, there's a spring weight down here. All of these, looks pretty simple, but it all combines together to determine whether or not a quarter is a real deal or not. The quarters get dropped in here, and if they're good, they come out here. If they're bad, they come out here. And when they're bad, they get dropped back into the coin return chute. Show you one more time. You have to hold it level. It's pretty important that it's level. See, it came out here. And sometimes if the quarter gets stuck or it's dirty, when you push the coin return, you're basically pushing this white lever here, which opens it up. And if the quarter's stuck in there, or whatever it is, the coin, it lets it drop, it falls through, comes out here. So that's basically it. If you wanted to add something like that to your pinball machine, I didn't want to modify it drastically, but I could have changed it in software, but I wanted to do it this way instead, because it won't have the option of using coins or the secret button underneath that no one knows about.